Anyway, Chad's from Nebraska, and his specialty is beef, so he still works at the experiment station at Union. And I just have to throw this in because I don't know where I got it. Okay? I was looking up, the experiment station starts in 1904.
01.
01, okay. Yep. And I am told that the reason Union got the experiment station was because LeGrand got the college. And there was a fight out. Is that right?
It's because Corvallis got the College of Ag. So at that time, at the turn of the century, Corvallis, even though the Oregon State College was there,
Yeah.
they still hadn't developed the College of Agricultural Sciences.
Oh.
So the idea was, since there was far more out here, at that time Union was the hub for
Union was a big, yeah.
and so they wanted to put the College of Ag in LeGrand, or excuse me, in Union.
Union.
And
So that was the fight.
yeah, and so the story is, so that was part of the fight, and then, so at that time, the governor was a gentleman by the name of James Whitcomb, and if you ever go to Corvallis' campus, Department of Animal Sciences in Whitcomb Hall,
Yeah.
and so they put his, so at that time, the governor decided, okay, we'll help you out, we'll give you the state hospital. And they're like, So, does anyone know where the state hospital ended up?
Salem.
Pendleton.
Oh, Pendleton.
Pendleton.
Oh,
So, the state hospital ended up Pendleton because Union's like, we don't want the hospital either. And so then the compromise was, how about we give you the first experiment station? So the first Oregon experiment station's in Union because of that. So, and I'll talk a little bit about that. It's a pretty cool
Great.
So, well, thanks for, Rich, thanks for the invite. And thanks for letting me come up and talk to you folks. It's nice to get out of LeGrand for the day, type of deal. So it's nice to see some snow. Like Rich says, I'm originally from Nebraska. In fact, 2 weeks I got to fly back to Nebraska for Christmas. And so I'm trying to get prepared for the snow. We have no snow in LeGrand. In fact, it was clear roads and sunshine until I just passed Lostine, and then got more into the fog and snow. And so Dad had texted me Saturday night, they had 2 inches of rain, and then it switched over and they got 6 inches of snow, and that's on top of already a foot of snow they've had. So I'm like, great, bring some sunshine so I can get used to this. So anyway, so yeah, just a little bit about myself. So my name is Chad Mueller. I've been with Oregon State University since 2004. I'm originally from Nebraska. My whole family's still back in Nebraska. Family farm. Southeastern Nebraska. It's actually south of Omaha, about an hour. So I'm about 20 minutes from Iowa, 45 minutes from Kansas. So right down on the Missouri River. Did my undergrad actually at Oklahoma State. University of Nebraska was, even though I'm a diehard Cornhusker, regardless of how the year goes, I'm a diehard Cornhusker, I don't really like Lincoln. So I went to Lincoln for a couple of years, and Lincoln was just too big. It was too close to home. It's about a half hour from home. And so I had actually transferred to Oklahoma State. So I actually got my undergraduate degrees in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Got my graduate degrees at South Dakota State in Brookings, South Dakota. So I found out what cold really was when I moved to the Dakotas. Coldest I've ever been. I still remember this. We were working cattle one morning. It was 45 below. That winter we had 108 inches of snow. It started mid-November, and we finally got below an inch of snow on the ground the end of June.
Oh, jeez.
And it was like, okay, I really want to go south. So yeah, but honestly, I really like winters. So from after Brookings, I got a job in Corvallis. And so Jim Males, who was Department Head Animal Sciences in Corvallis, was actually at South Dakota State when I was there. They were looking for someone to teach nutrition and said, Chad, you want to come on out? And I'm like, I'd been to the Pacific Northwest one other time before then. I'd flown up for an interview up to Moscow, Idaho. That was it. Otherwise, I'd never been to Pacific Northwest. So I loaded up a truck, U-Haul, took 80, 84, 20 across Oregon, ended up in Corvallis, and I'm like, there's more trees here than I think the entire state of Nebraska has. It was a change for me. So I was in Corvallis for about 3 years as part of the Department of animal science. My background is nutrition. So like Rich says, I'm in the beef cattle side of things. And my training is in feedlot cattle, but for me, it's the whole ag industry, and especially the whole beef cattle industry is what I have a real passion for. So even though there's not a lot of feedlots out here, there's a lot of diversity. And so for me, Corvallis, even though there's some great agricultural ground in the Willamette Valley, way too many people for me. I went through the seasonal depression. When it starts raining for 3-4 months and it's foggy, it's like, no, that's not for me. I can do 0 and sunshine. So I've actually been at basically the Eastern Oregon Ag Research Center since 2008. I showed up there in January of 08. I was strictly at the experiment station. I'll just kind of do a quick overview. Rich and I, when we talked about this, it's like, well, what do we cover? So I'm going to cover a little bit of both, of kind of everything we have there. And then you guys can just ask questions. But I've been there since 08. I've been on campus since 2012, full-time on campus. And right now I'm the only animal scientist in our ag program, so I teach all the animal science courses. So everything from intro to animal science to the nutrition courses, production courses. Finishing up a course right now that I never thought I'd have to teach. It's called Contentious Social Issues in Animal Agriculture. Yeah, it's really interesting. And it's really interesting how do you teach something like this. I'm like, okay, I'm a trained scientist. How do you, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not. But it's been great learning for me to really kind of talk about a lot of those issues. And so the students are, I think, happy that the class is done. So I made them actually have to work together, and they just kind of like working together. So yeah, so we have, how many of you knew that OSU actually has a program on Eastern's campus? Yeah, a couple of you have. A lot of people don't, and a lot of people from the eastern side of the state have no idea that OSU has a partnership campus with Eastern. And I'll talk about that shortly, but we've been around for a little over 30 years. So 1985 was actually when the legislature gave dollars to start the program at Eastern. And so, yeah, we've actually been there for quite a while. And so what I want to do today, to kind of go through things, is just give you an overview of the ag program. We're going through some changes, and I'll talk about a few of those. The College of Ag Sciences itself is going through some major changes in Corvallis, which always impacts us because Corvallis rarely ever sees anything outside of Corvallis. Sometimes we have a fight for our existence type of deal. Here we are.
Come on, guys. We'll get here. Chase, come with me and grab some chairs.
Rich, we got a lot of chairs here.
Hi, baby.
How many of you are there? A lot. There's a lot? Like 20? Okay. All right, Toby.
Sorry,
That's all right. That's all right.
I was gone all last week and I kind of forgot.
So,
Chad, how are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
Good to see you. Looking great.
let's see. Should we sneak some more up front, or some of you sneak in the rows
Okay,
here?
ladies and gentlemen, grab the open chairs that nobody's sitting in. I don't think they're reserved for anybody.
Nope.
Graham, why don't you come on up here? Grab a chair.
Huh?
Come on, gals. Chloe, Maggie, why don't you come on up?
Yeah, just put them there, Chase. Put them
Yeah,
up
there's 3 chairs up front.
Yeah. Put some more up there.
Good. Sorry for the interruption. Sorry.
Well, that worked out. Okay, students.
We got a bunch of sheets up there.
I'll read it. I should let Mr. Kane introduce Mr. Chad Mueller, but I'll do it. Chad Mueller grew up in Nebraska, farm, and his specialty is livestock. but he is also the coordinator and the student advisor for the Oregon State University Ag and Natural Resource Program at Eastern Oregon University. And the one thing you kids can take home to your parents, I think that you get your first 2 years, you take a lot of Eastern classes too, and you pay Eastern tuition instead of OSU tuition, or instead of Corvallis tuition. So it's cheaper.
Which is significantly less.
Pardon?
Significantly less.
It's significantly less. And Brad Stevens, by the way, is on trustees of Eastern Oregon University. So if you want to ask questions about Eastern, you got 2 people. Okay, take it away, Ted.
So, I won't go backwards and recap for anything, so welcome to all the students. You guys are here because you got to have class, didn't you? So, let's see, kind of give a little bit of background. So what I'm going to do is just go over the aspect of the partnership program, how it functions, and then I do want to talk a little bit about the experiment station. What I was telling Rich is there's a lot of people, even from the local area, that have no idea the resources that we have in Northeast Oregon. And so we just kind of like to give you just a brief overview type of deal. So, so if you've been on Eastern's campus, if you go down to Eastern's campus, anybody know which building this is? Anybody want to guess? So this would be Badgley Hall. So if you go on campus, Badgley Hall is the main science building. So chemistry's in there, biology's in there, math classes. It's a unique building. If you're interested in nursing, OHSU's nursing program is also in this building. ODF&W has outreach in this building, and then we're in that building. So there's a wide variety that's in there. So if you go down to Eastern's campus, first off, I encourage you just wander through the buildings. When you go to any campus, just wander through buildings, see what's in those. You see a lot of really cool things. And so the program itself, so how this program really works is it is a partnership program. So students that come to our program are actually dual enrolled. They're Eastern Oregon University students and they're Oregon State University students. So they're dual enrolled. The tuition is, according to the agreement, is any courses, Eastern or OSU courses taught on Eastern's campus is at the Eastern rate, tuition rate. And fees would be the same way. So tuition and fees would be, if you're budgeting, is you just look up the Eastern prices. That is significantly, a huge significant savings. Students that go to Corvallis, it's much more expensive. Cost of living is more expensive. The fees are much more. We tell students, because we'll have some students say, well, I want to go to Corvallis and go to a football game. Well, the reason you have cheaper fees is because you don't get access to those things. You get access to everything on Eastern's campus. And so we are truly a partnership type program. It was established in 1986, so we've been there for 32 years, 32, 33 years. And the first class actually graduated in 87, 88. We had some transfer students that actually transferred early and came through. And originally, just a little bit of background is that program was really it was pushed by a bunch of local sponsors that are part of the ag industry and also OSU Extension. And so there was a group of people out of Hermiston, out of Pendleton, out of the Grand area, out of Union, and even some folks from Enterprise here that was helping push this. And so we actually got a legislative block of dollars to establish this program. And so the original program itself had what they call the General Ag degree, the Rangeland Ecology and Management degree, an Agricultural Business Management degree, and a Crop and Soil Sciences. Those were the 4 original degrees that our program had. And the Natural Resources was added in 1991. Okay? And I'm going to come back to that because the Natural Resources is right now suspended because the Natural Resource degree is in the College of Forestry at OSU, not the College of Agricultural Sciences. And if you work in enough bureaucracies, you'll find that people don't like to work together at times. And so the College of Forestry and the College of Ag are going, as long as we get our money, we don't care what the other one does. And so right now, the Natural Resources actually suspended our degree here. We're trying to, that's something that we're kind of working with Eastern as a hope of there may be a future opportunity to have a true joint type of degree in natural resource degree would be great. Look around. I mean, that's what we have is natural resources type of deal. So, and at any point, you need to ask questions, ask away. All right. So, because I really don't feel like going back anytime soon, so I'm fine to as low as that was.
Do you guys cooperate at all with the forestry, extension forester out of Baker?
We, tell me his name.
Bob, well, he's retired, but he's just retired.
Yeah, Bob, because I had to think, Bob actually helped us. One of the things I'm going to talk about is our Summer Ag Institute. Bob helped us last year with that. But that was one of those things. The College of Forestry would not allow any of their extension folks, would not pay their salary to come teach. So yeah, we've had, because he actually was interested in teaching a couple of forestry classes. So yeah, it's been, yeah, it's really troubling when you hear those things. And so some changes that's happened over the last 30 years is in the recession, 08-09 recession, of course, Oregon State contracted quite a bit. All the universities contracted quite a bit. And at that point in time, ag business, what they called AREC, agricultural economics and resource management, they look at Corvallis, they look at it as we don't want to give money to the east side. And so they contracted their faculty. So in 09, we actually lost the ag business major. It was our largest major, and they pulled the faculty from it. We could talk about this. This is right now what we're doing is we actually, a lot of my students that are ag science students, I actually push them to do an Eastern business minor, and we're having more of those doing double degrees, an Eastern business major and an ag science major. So we're doing a hybrid of the business management, and it works pretty good. General ag changed to agricultural sciences. Rangeland ecology management went to rangeland sciences. In the 90s and early 2000s, we named big science behind everything. And so we went through a lot of name changes. Crop soil science, they decided they didn't like each other, so the department actually split on campus, which is great when you have classes that encompass both, and now they split and trying to manage. We got 3 different names for classes in the same department. So it's interesting, but so we now have crop sciences and soil sciences. And then, like I just mentioned, as of this fall, the natural resource degree is no longer being offered. So any new students that came in this fall, starting this fall, that was not an option for them to select. We actually have 26 students in that major, and we'll finish them out type of deal. But this is one of those where the College of Ag approached the College of Forestry, and the College of Forestry is like, you know, until we see some financial incentive, we're not, pretty much they don't want to go to the east side. All their money comes from timber industry on the west side, and they look at it as that's what we're going to devote our time to. And so, yeah, it's...
Chad?
I'll try to get the political sides on that.
On the class I taught down there, it seemed like half the people were natural resource majors. And also the job situation, working for tribes, working for nonprofits like Wallowa Resources. I mean, it seems like there are almost more degrees for natural resource majors than there are for some of the ag. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, the natural resource major is really one of those general degrees that gives you a broad flexibility. And for us, it was in managing those resources. So it was beyond timber. So our students had to take range courses. They took crops courses. They took forestry classes. So they had a broad range of that range management, or excuse me, of that resource management.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
From Eastern's point of view, Tom Insko, the new president, is quite aware of this. And Eastern is now our rural university. And one of the goals of Eastern now is to develop a natural resources program. And so there will be a natural resources degree.
Yeah, and that's huge because I think that's going to be a tremendous attractant to students. For OSU, it's interesting. The natural resource degree actually started in the College of Ag. Actually started Rangeland Sciences. There was an internal feud within the department. That person who started natural resources decided to leave that department. No one else wanted to pick him up, so forestry's like, sure, come on over. So the degree migrated over to College of Forestry. It's bureaucracy. You gotta love bureaucracy. So, but this is a huge one, and I know I've mentioned it to Tom and to Sarah Witt that there's a huge avenue in the east side of the state. And folks, I really look at it as we don't serve just Eastern Oregon. And I tell students is we serve the Intermountain West. And so we don't necessarily compete with Corvallis. We're competing with University of Idaho. We're competing with University of Nevada, Reno. We're competing with those because that's part of the Intermountain West. And how we manage resources in the Intermountain West is very different outside of that area. And so I think this is a huge area. We've lost four teaching faculty. This may not mean a lot to you. That's about half of our teaching faculty. We offer the same number of majors. We actually have more students, and we have half the faculty teaching those. That's why I now teach 7 classes. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Actually, it is a lot of fun. But this is something that we're trying to get rectified. Kind of give you an idea with the program. So where are we at right now? We're actually, look at it as we're in this process really of regrouping and rebuilding. What I tell folks, and I really am not bashing Corvallis, because I seen this when I was in South Dakota, I seen this at Nebraska, I seen this at Oklahoma, was the parent companies or the parent university, we call them the motherships, that their focus is strictly on that entity. And when you start looking at the branches that go out from those universities typically get less attention. And we see that across a lot of universities. And sometimes we really have to fight for any type of resources. And so the College of Ag right now is in some pretty tough shape. And I'll just leave it as a lot of that is more the result of leadership than it is necessarily of budgets. Budgets are still tight, and budgets will always be tight, but there's also, you can deal with in those type of deals. And so we are in this process of regrouping. We have 5 full-time faculty, both instructors and tenure track. We actually have a new program coordinator, head advisor. Rich, I'm no longer the program coordinator. And so Michelle Hines is actually now our program coordinator. Because I took on so many course loads, that being able to coordinate plus head advising and everything else, it was going insane type of deal. So we do have a designated program coordinator who's also our head advisor, and then we have some new support. We are developing in the process, developing a new degree. I can't tell you what that degree is because theoretically, since it's not approved by the OSU Faculty Senate, I can't advertise it. But we are working on this. The reason we're developing a new degree is our degrees at Eastern have to meet the same requirements as in Corvallis. And Corvallis are really great about changing up their degrees and never telling us, and then suddenly going, oh, you have 2 new classes you folks have to teach. Where'd they come from? And of course, now the mantra is, well, they just do it online. Online courses are nice and they're good for some people. They're not a replacement for in-person type of teaching type of deal. So we're developing a new degree that's really a standalone at Eastern for our individual program. We are trying to bolster our partnership with Eastern. That is one of the things that I would say the distance, but is part of that leadership, is we've had some leadership over the last 10 years that hasn't really valued that partnership or those agreements. And in fact, our dean that has just retired this last summer was the dean for 7 years. He had never been out to LaGrande. He had students graduating in his college, and he had never been to LaGrande. And so it was this out of sight, out of mind. And so because of that, we're going through some changes. Dean Allen Sams just was on, in fact, October 31st was his first day. So he's just a month on the job. And from what I've heard, he's pretty much been inundated by folks from the east side saying, you need to start looking at us more. And so, so this is one of those areas that we're starting to see that there is this opportunity for reapproaching these partnerships and making them stronger. So, give you an idea of our current program. We have 148 majors, and we have roughly 180 to 190 total students that are part of our program, but that also includes those that are minors, or minors only, we call them. So we have 148 majors. This number is increasing. We're seeing a lot more of our students basically dual majors. Specifically, they're doing an ag science and a business major. We're getting quite a few of our students are being hired by Northwest Farm Credit Service, Rabobank, RDO, which is out of the Boardman area, which has a lot of entities, are hiring a lot of our students, and so they want more of the business. So most of you folks from Joseph, are you freshmen?
Yeah.
Any sophomores, juniors, seniors? Anybody seniors?
I'm a senior.
Senior? Think about college?
Yeah.
Okay. Should I put you on the spot? What are you thinking about?
Well, actually, like, I'm thinking about cosmetology schools. That's a trade school, so.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with trade schools. There really isn't. I have 2 nephews that are in trade schools. They're going to be linemen, and they're going to make far more money than I have ever dreamed. So, nothing wrong with that. And so, one of the things that I tell students is, even if you don't want to do a business major, and I don't care if you want to be an art major, you want to be a history major, you want to be an ag science major, have some business. Take some business classes. Eastern has a really nice business minor. It's 32 credits. For even our ag science, that's a third of the credits that's actually required by our major. So it doesn't really add much to their degree. And so for you students, think about some business classes. It's good to have. Even cosmetology is a business.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing some business classes after I took the course.
Yeah.
Because in the future I want to own my own salon, so that.
That's good. That's good. So yeah, I think business should always be a part of that. Very good. 32 minors. These are Eastern majors that are taking OSU minors. We have worked out the agreement to where any Eastern majors that they want to do, take our classes, they can apply online for a minor, and there's no fee. So OSU has waived those application fees, so it's essentially a fee-free process. I actually advise probably about 30 of those 32. Most of them are pre-vet, pre-med students that are also taking animal science for their pre-vet disciplines, and so I actually have quite a few of those in my classes. And so it's nice. The other thing is it blends people. It gets people together and they don't kind of segregate themselves. Kind of a breakout, we are primarily ag science. Ag science is a real general type degree in that when you get through, there is a business component, there's a little bit of business law that's part of it. Students also then have roughly 60 elective credits. And so if you're more interested in crops, you can take more of the crops courses. If you're interested in range, you can take more range classes. If you're interested in science. So it lets you, it's really an integrated degree, which honestly, I was animal science all the way through all my degrees. I love animal science, but it also pigeons you into a certain area. And so some of these integrated degrees are nice because it gives you a lot of flexibility. And so our natural resource represents roughly 20% of our, so even for us, it was this deal of we have students interested in natural resources. So I really hope Eastern is one of those that picks that up because it is an area we have a lot of students interested. Range is roughly 15%, and crop soil science is 6%. Really, these two areas have been dropping because, especially to get into some of these really good ag type jobs, and when I say good jobs is I can tell you, I can give you a list of at least a half dozen jobs right now where the starting wage is roughly $60,000, okay? And you don't have to travel across the country. They're in Northeast Oregon, they're in Boardman area, they're close by, all right? And so the thing is, a lot of those jobs, because the supply of students with skills to fill those is so far below what the demand is, they just want to know, did you complete a degree? What were some of those supporting classes? Did you take some business? Did you take some communication? Did you take some management type classes? That's what they want to know. And they will teach you the rest of the details. And so because of that, a lot of our students are doing the ag science. 46% of our students are transfer students. This is very different than Corvallis. In fact, I talked to people in Corvallis, and they're like, we don't like dealing with transfer students, that's extra paperwork. Most of the departments over there, they'll talk about that they may have roughly 5% of their population as transfer students. The rest of them are what we call first year, so come in as freshmen or they're starting type of deal. We are roughly 50% transfer students. We have a lot of students that come from Treasure Valley Community College in Ontario, Blue Mountain Community College in Hermiston, or excuse me, Pendleton. We're getting more from Columbia Basin Community College in Pasco, which is right there next to the airport in Pasco. And we're also getting more from Walla Walla Community College in Walla Walla. So those are our 4 community colleges that we're pulling a lot of students into. The nice thing about community college, again, financially, it helps with those. You have a much smaller bill at the end. You can get those supporting classes out of the way, transfer in our program, and typically 2 years to 2 years and maybe a term, we can get you done. I never tell people, yep, you put in 2 years community college, just 2 years at 4 year and you're done. Things don't always transfer cleanly, but we can typically get students done in a little over 2 years. 2 years to a term, that type of deal. So, our population, about 2/3 of our population are female. I always have people that ask me this, what's the breakdown? And a third are male. And this is pretty typical across the spectrum. In fact, in animal sciences, world of animal sciences, most programs now are about 80 to 85% female and 15 to 20% male. And I always tell people it's because ladies care about the details and guys are they're like, whatever. So I tell my students, they kind of have that same response. And like, but,
so how many pre-vets do you have? And they're all women probably.
It's in our program, most pre-vets will come through the biology degree.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll take animal science courses with us. But I would say it's 80-20 type of deal.
Yeah.
And I've talked in the pre-vet club, and that's pretty much, if I had to see the demographics, that's
80% women now.
Yeah. So that's pretty much our breakdown. Give you a little bit of idea of some of the things we do. We really try to do as much hands-on stuff. Classroom type activities are great. It's good to get the basics, good to get the fundamentals, but we want students to get out there and actually be putting those fundamentals into action. And so just a couple things we've done with our students. We have a variety of clubs. Our ag club is our biggest club, student club. We had a meeting last night. I think there's roughly 40 students at it. And we put on an ag dinner dance in the winter that we usually get about a couple hundred people at the Blue Mountain Conference Center. And so we get them out. I like getting students out in regards to my nutrition classes. So we'll go visit feedlots. This is actually a feedlot down in Nissa, outside of Nissa. This is part of our facilities out at Union Station. And I do tell folks that we are OSU students. We are also Eastern Oregon University students. And they're part of both. And so we have student ambassadors that are actually on both. They're OSU ambassadors and EOU ambassadors. And so there is a lot of partnership, and we want to make that stronger.
And your students can play ball for Easter too.
They can.
Yeah, there were volleyball. I had volleyball players and football players in my classes.
We have, in fact, last night in the ag club, there was 4 football players. Typically in my classes, I have at least a half dozen, if not more, football players, wrestlers, and we have a lot that go for volleyball and softball as well. So yeah, it's fun. You get a wide variety type of deal. I don't know if anyone recognizes Tess. Toby, do you recognize Tess? So Tess Hamby. Tess is actually from Pilot Rock. She graduated last year. She then went on to OSU and got her master's in ag education. And she is the one who just started up Astoria's new FFA program, ag program in Astoria. It's been dormant for, what, 15 years?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, long time.
And so she was hired on in Astoria, and she's restarting their program over there. And I asked Tess, who come from Pilot Rock, how do you like Astoria? It was like, you don't see that much water around.
How did she go about getting her ag? Did she student teach in another discipline, Chad? They cross over?
No, so actually, this is one of the areas that we're really trying to build on in our program is we have an awful lot of students that are interested in ag education.
Right.
And for OSU, the formal ag education is through Corvallis. And so, but what we try and do is hit the masters. And so we offer most of those courses to meet those requirements. And then Eastern offers through their education program, offers a lot of the supporting classes.
So she went through the Eastern component.
Yep.
Jimmy Zamora's doing the methods and stuff with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then she ended up at St. Paul for her student teaching.
Oh, okay. She was at St. Paul.
Yep.
That's why I didn't
Yeah.
recognize her.
So,
Yeah.
so anyway, we and Katie Sotelo. Katie was actually cheerleader, Eastern Oregon cheerleader, and she's actually now at Corvallis in the Ag Ed program, and so she's doing her student teaching actually in Corvallis. I think just outside of Corvallis type of deal. So we have a lot of students who are interested in Ag Ed.
And there's a big supply and demand issue there also. Just for
Huge.
students, I should preach this more, but there's not enough ag teachers and the pay is variable. You can kind of negotiate part of your contract so you get paid more than a regular teacher, which is nice.
Yep. And in fact, Josh Stewart, who heads up the Ag Ed program
Yes.
over Corvallis, told me 2 weeks ago that he gets calls every week. He can place 7 in California right now, 4 or 5 in Oregon, same amount in Washington. There's just the demand.
Nationwide shortage.
Yep.
40
It's a
states
great
out of the
opportunity.
50 have a shortage.
Yeah. So, so we definitely try to get out there. Gonna move on here pretty quick. The experiment station, so kind of give you an idea. So the OSU experiment station is in Union. If you want to know where it's at, how many here have been into Union? So if you go down Dearborn Street, which goes by the football field and the softball and baseball fields, if you head down and the street tees, and if you drive through that T, you're literally driving onto the experiment station. So the OSU experiment station Union is roughly 660 acres, that part of town. And so we have, and I'll talk about the Hall Ranch here in a second, but it was the first Oregon experiment station. So established 1901. This building, in fact, all these buildings are still standing. This is the original building. If you go onto the experiment station right now, there's a new office complex that builds up here and then wraps around. But if you go on, the original 2-story is still that. So we still have that building. This is actually the original superintendent's house. We figured it was built about 1910, 1912. And Kim McCaig is living in there right now. And it's as solid as it was over 100 years ago. We cleaned it up, re-sided and re-roofed it, but it's been pretty good. If you're looking from, so where this image would be, this is ours, and the barn tour, or I should have gone on. I love old barns, especially come from the Midwest. There's some great barns. We have, and I should have put one on here, we have what we call the Red Barn. The Red Barn is at the experiment station. It's actually about a 4-story barn. It was originally built as a dairy until and after they finished it, they realized there's really no dairy animals in Northeast Oregon. And so they never used it as a dairy, but it still had all original gutters, concrete gutters, and that was built roughly 1905. If you look at all the trusses are 1 foot by 1 foot solid tree beams. It's a massive barn, it's beautiful, but it's one of those that if we don't do something, it's gonna start falling down type of deal. But this barn is now our shop. This was built roughly in the late teens. They did some draft horse research out of there. And then we converted it into a shop really in the 50s. But this would be, if you're trying to figure out where you're at in Union, the school would be over here. This street would be 10th Street, and then it would curve in Dearborn. So the softball, baseball fields would be right here, the football fields. To kind of give you an idea of where that's at. That's Craig Mountain in the back. It was originally, that whole area is part of Ladd Marsh. And so it was all drained. And so the reason it was put there was how can we reclimate basically the marshland, wetlands, and turn it into productive ag. And so it was all pretty much drained. I'm going to skip this. Actually, I'm going to come back to this one. Hold on a second. When we look at it, these are some of the original pictures. If you're ever down Union, feel free to stop in. These are, here it's hard to see, but this is a horse-pulled grader that they were using to grade out the soil to try and get them to drain. We still have those drain tiles in. A lot of them don't work, but they're still there. Old cat doing it. I did have a picture, but they have an area where they put in the ditch, irrigation ditch. And we have some of the oldest water rights that go through there, but where they dynamited it, and they took the picture right at the time when it went off. And so all you see is stumps just flying through the air. So it's kind of a cool picture. But originally, it was looking at what type of forages. So we have some of the earliest data in regards to flaxseed, safflowers, sugar beets. I've seen pictures of sugar beets, honestly, that look like small children. There's one picture of a gentleman, he's holding a sugar beet like this. I have no idea what it tastes like, that big, but there were some huge sugar beets that's grown in there. And then barley, some cereal grains. The other thing is, our soil, I can tell you right now, I can dig down 3 foot, and at that point in time, I start hitting the water table. I can go 3.5 foot, and I can actually see the water move. So it's a very active water table coming through those. The soils are very acidic, so because of that, we have to adapt to those more acidic soils. So we look at what are some of those things for those acidic soils, what is the range and forest length. I'm backing up one, we also have what we call the haul range. And if you ever go down to Union and get on Highway 203 that heads out of Union, and you actually go through Medical Springs and end up in Baker City. So Catherine Creek State Park is a really nice park if you ever want to go. If you keep going past Catherine Creek about 2 miles, you will then get an area that's a straight stretch on the highway, and that's actually what we call the haul range. And the haul range was purchased by OSU in 1941, and it's actually the oldest actively managed timber ground that OSU owns. We have about 2,000 acres, 1,000 acres on each side. There's 2 things with, it's a beautiful area to go, but there's 2 things that are unique about it. One, Highway 203 goes right to the middle of it, and the other thing is so does Catherine Creek. Does anybody know what's unique about Catherine Creek? There are 3 endangered or threatened species of fish that go up through Catherine Creek. So you have, it's major spawning for Chinook salmon, steelhead, and bull trout. And so, honestly, spring from June through July, you can find more feds on here than you can find cattle on there. They're literally finding every spawning space, and they've been doing it for years. And so, we do not fence off our riparian areas. We actively manage them. And we actually have seen, we can show you the data, but we actually see, we haven't seen a drop in the red count, which would be the eggs from all the salmon. The thing is, we don't graze those areas where cattle are always on Catherine Creek. And so we're actually seeing an increase on those. And so some people haven't liked that we haven't fenced that off, but we haven't. But there's a bigger issue. Catherine Creek has found its original ditch, and the original ditch is Highway 203. because that was the easy place to put it. So they re-channeled Capture Creek a long time ago. Now it's coming back. So now it's in the courts. They're trying to figure out what to do. They don't want to, it's actually eating away at Highway 203, and so something has to happen. And so because of that, it's this government, huge government deal. They're trying to figure out, do we maintain the highway? Do we move the highway? They're actually looking at investing about a couple of $100 million to remove that highway. So we're just there, like, we just want the grass, we're good. So, but it is interesting. But those are great areas for students, that we try to get those involved. I'm just gonna, real quick, current focus is we do work with Starkey Experimental Forest, which is up out of Starkey, Oregon. We supply cattle to them. We look at a lot of work. Students get a chance to interact with elk and cattle. And in fact, if you really want to do it, you can actually be a deer wrangler because they trap deer for collars, GPS collars. I found out I'm way too old to do that, and I'd rather get kicked by a steer than a deer. I don't care what anyone says, they just really hurt. And so the station itself, we're really focusing on one of these things of cattle grazing, interactions with forest management. We're also looking at this aspect of late season water. So if we divert some of that irrigation to make sure that we have enough water in the ditches for fish, how can we select some of our forages to better match that? I'm just going to real quick through these couple regional programs. First off, we are not extension. We get that asked all the time. Are you guys OSU extension? Nope. We have no extension whatsoever. It's a completely different entity within OSU. So we're not extension. We also do, and Toby's helped with this in the past, we actually also help put on what we call Summer Ag Institute, which I think some teachers from up here have taken. It is a program for K-12 teachers, and we focus on teachers really out of more urban. So this last year we had primarily teachers out of Multnomah County, down through Salem, one out of Ashland. We had one out of Pendleton this year, but otherwise they all come from the urban areas, and really teach them the hands-on aspects of agriculture. It's a week-long type of program. We focus on different things. This is actually, we've tried to introduce more things with precision ag. So this is a drone image. We actually made all the teachers lay out. So see, the teachers do things as well. So we were looking at precision ag. We look at dry land production. We go over to the Hermiston, Boardman area. There's only one ethanol plant in Oregon and Washington, and it's in Boardman. And so we go over there and we talk about the process of biofuels. We talk about beef cattle. We talk about mint distilleries. We have them actually go out and they have to estimate work feet in forests, those type of things. And so it's a fun program. It's a week long. It's pretty intensive. And then the last thing is here, we also put on what we call a Cattleman's Workshop, which is actually coming up this next January, because I want to be done here. January 19th is our next Cattleman's Workshop. This will be our 15th annual. We get about 350 producers and industry folks that come. It's actually one of the largest in the West, which if you think about this area in the middle of January, to get folks to travel to LeGrand is pretty phenomenal. And so it is something that, it is a partnership between OSU, but also it's mainly industry. So we work with seed stock producers, we work with some industry folks, and it's a fun program. And so the other thing this year, I was going to let, so Toby, I'm glad you came, is we have one of our speakers, Tom Nossinger. Tom is actually out of Nebraska. He's actually talking about animal welfare, low stress handling of livestock. And so since he's coming out, we're already paying him. I convinced him to come the night before, and we're going to put on a 2-hour demonstration at the Eastern Oregon Livestock Showgrounds in Union. And of course, I'm making my students go to it, but producers are invited, but I'm really trying to invite more youth. And so I'll send you, and I brought some flyers, but I'm trying to get all the FFA programs to come to it, to start educating that generation that's already coming out into it. So,
You want me to share that at our next ag teacher meeting also? Chad?
sure,
Okay.
sure. So I apologize, I think I'm running out of time.
Chad, would you, because so many students here, would you tell them what a typical first year ag program class schedule would look like? What they'd be taking if they go to you and,
So if they come to us as freshmen,
yeah,
so the first 2 years are really getting the fundamentals. And so it's typically a year of chemistry, a year of biology, and we don't like you folks to take them at the same time. So typically what we do is your freshman year, we'll put you in typically the chemistry first. You get the chemistry done, they'll put you in biology your sophomore year, but then also we have what we call the Gen Eds, and they're the supporting classes, give you a more broader view of the world. Okay, so some psychology, some history. You'll take some English composition type courses. We try to get those intro courses, like my intro to animal science, freshmen and sophomores, there's an intro to forestry class. It's really kind of those supply, creating that foundation. So by the time you're a junior, senior, you're taking those most specific classes that are towards your major. I will tell you right now, your freshman, sophomore year will be the toughest, not because of the type of coursework, but because you may have to take coursework you really have no interest in. And honestly, you just got to get through it. Just get over it. It's part of the process. I had to go through it. Everyone who got a 4-year degree, that's part of the process. And it's not to make it painful. It's to give you this idea to have a broader scope on the world itself, other than your major. So, yeah. So that's what they're going to be doing is typically those foundations.
and you're on the quarter system,
We're on the quarter system.
so they finish the first quarter before Christmas,
Yep.
and generally they're taking 4 or 5, so you'd have no more than 4 classes each term, right?
You can have 5.
Could you have 5 3 credits? Yeah.
So an average load would be 15 credit hours per term.
Yeah.
And if you did the math, it takes you 180 to graduate. If you divide that by 4, that comes down to 45 per year. 3 terms, you're averaging 15.
Yeah.
Some classes are 5 credits, some classes are 3 credits. So I typically have students, 12 is the minimum to be full-time. But I tell students, if you're struggling or if you're in a term where if you're taking microeconomics and biology 200 and something else and you're like, okay, I don't have the time, just take 12, focus on those, because you can take 16 or 17 another term and make up for those. Or you could pick up one in the summer if you needed to. So I tell people, don't get so caught up on the absolute load. I got to be done in 4. If you already look at it, I got to be done in 4. The map looks really big, and so it's like just worry about this year, and the next year you'll worry about that. And in the end, you'll be like, I had students last week. They're like, I'm graduating next term. I'm like, see, I told you. So you'll get there. Questions?
Do you guys get any benefit out of the OSU lands out Captain Creek? You get to use it?
You're talking about the Hall Ranch?
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. And in fact, we manage that property. And so it's our cattle that go on that property. We manage it. We manage it in a way that we pull those cattle off before hunting season because it is open to hunters. And unfortunately, especially rifle hunters have a tendency to mistake a cow for something else. So we typically pull those off. But yeah, we actually manage those properties.
Yeah, there used to be grading races on the adjoining private property.
Yep. So the Mormon churches now has a bunch of ground around us. They have a big retreat area just down the road from us. And then there's a cattle company called 7 Diamond. And 7 Diamond has kind of everything that really crescents around there. And 7 Diamond runs from essentially Cove all the way to North Powder. About 5,000 to 6,000 head of cows. Yeah, there's just a lot of things in between. So but that's our oasis type of deal. So yeah, it's an area we love to get students out to get into those areas. Students get out there, they can see the fish, especially if they're coming out late spring. You can go out and watch the salmon. Great wildlife. We do have a few bears, sow bears up there. It's not a big deal. They really don't harm the cattle. We have a lot of cougars in that area. They've been fine. We've had a few wolves come through the area, and I'm staying out of that political deal right now. But it's from wildlife, it's phenomenal what you get to see there. Especially come from Nebraska. It's like,
When grading the cattle up there, does your students have like a preference when you get them in during hunting season? Do you use formulas or horses?
we do pretty much everything on horseback. And in fact, up there, it's rugged enough terrain. We could get some four-wheelers around, and we use those more for checking fence. But for the most part, our cows, because we work with our cows so much, our cows are pretty lazy. And so they know it's like, okay, when they know it's time to come home, they almost move themselves type of deal. But we pretty much do everything on horseback.
Do your students bring their horses to campus, or do you have horses that they use?
The horses, that's a unique thing. So on the station itself is only people who can have horses or people who work there and are going to use those horses. Otherwise, we'd become a boarding facility and our pastures would just get mowed down. There's a lot of our students do bring horses, and there's a couple nice boarding facilities around the LaGrange area. And so there's some great areas around there. The other thing is there's a lot of ranches around there and hobby ranches that are looking for students to maybe help them through the winter, and they'll allow them to bring their horses and then they come around. So yeah, we have to watch horses and dogs. And I love dogs. Toby knows how much I love my dog.
Yep.
But you know, the thing is, it's typical. You know, someone will go out there with a dog that's not been around cows, and just, you know, they're like a candy store. It's like, wait, stop! And, yeah, and then you have the train wrecks and so. Anything else? You good? You just want
There's a question back here.
It's pretty clap.
Climate change and PAP curriculum?
In the curriculum, is that what you're talking? You know, that is one of those areas, like the contentious social issues. We talked a little bit about that in regards to public grazing and some of those changes and potential changes in weather patterns. We don't have really any formal classes that talk about climate change. And honestly, we really, in many ways, they get built into our discussions. But and I haven't looked into Eastern's curriculum to know if they have anything that's specifically focusing on those. I do know we have a fair amount of seminars at times and little workshops that will pop up. But yeah, we're just trying to, those type of discussions, we just try to blend in with the curriculum.
Sure.
You still have the fistulated cattle out there, Chad?
We do.
Okay.
So we have 5 ruminally fistulated cows out at the experiment station. So we actually surgically put a hole into the rumen. So, and then there's a plug, so you can actually pull the plug out and you can actually reach into the rumen. And I wish I could show you type of deal. Our cow, in fact, they've done their time. The ones we have are 13 years old.
Right.
They're roughly 3,000 pounds because they're steers, and so they've been castrated, which means anything they eat goes to fat. So they're these blimps that just kind of walk around, and structurally they're just becoming unsound. So we're actually going to have some new ones made.
So are you a contact for that if I want to get my animal science class out there?
You bet.
Okay.
You bet. So yeah, so it's an opportunity. We use them for students. You can actually reach in what makes a ruminant unique, in that we're not ruminants. Is we can go out, you can eat grass if you want to, but are you going to get much nutrients out of it? No. How a cow, how a sheep, how a goat gets nutrients out of it is because the rumen is filled with microorganisms. And those microbes break it down, release the energy, and then that's what the cow gets. So this is an opportunity for you actually to reach in there. It smells like, I don't know, the smell that never bothers me. It smells like a really warm pond that is kind of, you know, and again, a little nasty, but yeah, it's okay. We give you gloves. We try to make them not cough on you. So, it flies. Anything else? Hopefully I haven't bored yet. I know. So, well, thanks for coming. Appreciate it.